Hey guys, Ben Paynes here, back once again for another Monday night social event at Teamsport Bristol. And after having a week's break, eating chocolate, enjoying myself, indulging, we're back and we mean business in this session. So before I get into the video, if you do want to see the fastest lap of the session that I completed, it was the last lap, and that was at 13 minutes and 15 seconds into the video. So if you want to skip ahead to that, I do understand that you don't always want to watch me going around the same track, the same laps over and over again. However, if you are new here, please feel free to subscribe, as I really would appreciate it, and it gives me the motivation to post more videos like this every week when I come down and enjoy myself just going karting really. And also leave a like too, as that really does help me. But as you can see in our first lap here, we have a 38.444, and we've just overtaken the bloke in front of us, and now we're just moving on to the second lap here. So we've had a little bit of a warm up, and this session really was a good one for me, as the first session out of 3 I did in this evening, I got the best time I ever have on my first initial warm up session, and I really was finding my groove this week. Even though I had a week off, I seemed to get right back into my own rhythm, and it really was beginning to flow once more. And the thing that I found this week, as we just come through on our second lap with a 38.217, which is still a ways off what we want, but the thing I found this week was just trying to make the car as quiet as possible while going around the track. So braking as smooth and applying the throttle as smooth as possible, just so there was no squealing, there was no rumbling. It was more just as quiet as I could make it, and the smoother I was being, as you'll see throughout the session, the times were just coming down. And I had another goal in this session as well, and you may see him behind me sweeping around as we go through some of the longer corners, but there was the fastest driver of the session behind me, and my goal was just to not let him overtake me. I wanted to try and keep ahead, try and escape him if I could, and keep some good consistent lap times in. But as you can see, we are being consistent. We're down to 37.739, so currently we are being quite consistent, as each lap the times are coming down, and I was noticing that in my driving, which is something that I never really notice. But I was just taking on some key points from the last few weeks. As I do watch the videos myself, I watch them back and I find the best lines to travel, and I think I have got quite a few of the lines nailed down now, as we got a 37.634, and we're really catching up to the bloke in front of us. And you can see the benefit of keeping control of the throttle rather than sliding around as he waves me through. I was just able to close up so much in that bottom section, and now as we go up the ramp here, just tucking in tight as possible. And I wasn't able to actually go flat out on that top corner this week, as I felt the car didn't have as much grip as I'd like it to have, and it was the same on this bottom corner. I was amazed at how I was actually managing to keep it in a good stead going around that long corner, because there seems to be a lack of grip on those two corners for me, and I don't know why. Whereas like the bottom here, I was gripping right into the track, I was able to stick left and right, back to the left, and the kart was just sticking through there. The same with this bottom hairpin, just tucking in nice and tight once again. But here I just kept, if you watch my foot, I kept having to let off, because I didn't really want to hit the wall. And that was the same coming down the big right hander at the bottom of the hill as well. I kept having to let off and sort of juggle both pedals. As you can see, look, just left and right each side, just to make sure that the kart wasn't sliding out. And you can see here as we cross the line once again, we have a 37.827, so we're around the same sort of times. We're not really breaking down from the 37.6 that we got before, but as I've mentioned in the past, there is a fellow ahead of me, and you can see there looking back to see if I was being pursued by the fastest member in the session. But I was trying to look ahead and stop looking back, because there he is on the left. I was trying to make sure that I stayed looking ahead, kept pushing forward, because the more you look backwards, the more you'll find yourself going backwards, because you're not focusing on what's ahead of you. So I try and remain vigilant, try and keep up with the bloke ahead of me, and just get that one a little bit wrong, but it's okay, because I'm going to make up for it for the rest of the lap. But we're trying to keep as short a line as possible, tuck in as much as we can around these corners, and that's something that I have struggled to do in the past few weeks, and I think that's why we've been able to gain so much time week after week is just by shortening the track as much as possible rather than taking wider lines, because it does make a big difference on a short track like this. You can see once again just trying to keep it as straight as possible down the straight. But that's a 37.9, and that's probably due to the first corner, so we take it a little bit better this time. Half throttle through the whole bottom section just to try and keep as much grip on the bottom of the track as possible, and then tucking in as much as I can on that bottom right hairpin, going over my favourite 2 dots just to try and keep it as flat out as I can, but having to lift off a little bit, maybe about 70% throttle, and then just dipping in left, dipping out right, and then back down to the big right hand corner. And as I've said before, as there's a reference in front of me, it does seem to help my lap times. There's something to push towards, and you can see there that is the fastest lap so far with a 37.554, and there's only more to come in this session, as I really was nailing that bottom section, just gaining so much time on the driver that's ahead of me as they're looking back to see where I am, much like I was for the person behind me. But the person ahead of me goes quite wide into that corner, and it allowed me to catch up quite a bit. And the same for this top section, as I was only using half the throttle, I was gaining so much more grip, but obviously as I do seem to be a little bit heavier, I was losing time in the straights and up and down the ramp. But once more we cross the line, and it's a 37.486, which is only about a tenth off my current personal best before this session. But once again we're just tucking in here as they wave me past, which I am quite happy about, because I would have probably been stuck behind them there. A driver that does seem to be a little bit lighter than me, and every time I got on a ramp they seem to just gain that little bit of time that I then make up throughout the rest of the lap. But as we move on once more, we are now about halfway into the session, maybe a little bit more, and I really was finding my groove at this point in the session, just focusing on nailing my apexes, keeping it as smooth as possible. And you can see there my time was a little bit slower, but that was because I was introduced to another driver that did slow me up a little bit, try and overtake them. And as we checking back once more, I really was getting worried that I was going to get overtaken by this person and another check. But luckily I was able to just keep staying on track, keep pushing forward, and that is a thing I don't usually do, is look back. But in this session I really was trying to focus on the person behind me as well as focus ahead of me, and as you can see once more we got a 37.61, so we are consistently in the mid 37s at this point, which a few weeks to a month ago I would have said was amazing, because I was stuck at around 37.8 as my fastest lap. And we look back again, really are obsessed with the person behind us trying to catch up, which in my opinion was a good thing, as it was enabling me just to push myself forward, really think in my head, if they catch up I've failed, I've lost. And that is the mentality I love to have, is just to always push myself to the best of my abilities really. And we come across the line now with another 37.566, so we really are cementing ourselves now on the 37s. It's not just a 1 or 2 lap thing in a row, we have done this for the last 3 laps in a row, just being really consistent with 37.4, 37.6 and 37.5, just over the 2 dots once again, just trying to take a little bit of a different line, a little bit wider, try and get as much throttle as possible. But unfortunately I was still having to lift off to about 78%, and we're sticking it down into the right hander once more, just trying to stay as tight as possible. I really was nailing those 2 corners this week, and once again look, the times are almost equal, just tucking in as tight as possible, as I've said throughout the video, and it really was paying off this week. I really was getting times that I was happy with, and again looking back it was getting closer and closer every lap. We were staying around the same, as I was really pushing myself. 1 lap I was faster, 1 lap he was faster, but once again just coming down the ramp, tucking in right. And the thing I didn't realise is sometimes I take the first apex a little bit wider, but I have noticed just to take the first apex and the second on both the corner we've just gone around there and the big right hander, just try and, as I've said, minimise the track length, which is something that I wasn't doing when I first started. I was taking a wider line, more like a car rather than a kart, trying to swing the kart in as much as I can, and wasn't really working. Obviously you need to take a racing line, but too much of, more like a passive racing line I want to say, doesn't really help in karts, as the margin of error is so small and the time splits are extremely small. But we can see once again now at 37.5, really are in the groove now, just getting 37.5, 37.6 over and over again, really cementing myself, as I've said, just in this bracket of drivers. And once again, looking back, I didn't realise how many times I looked back in this session, but I have been told as well, around this second hairpin at the top, you are able to clip that inside barrier, you are able to move it, so it does mean you can shorten the track even more, and it's not something I have done, as I find like I don't really want to just smash into the barrier. But you can see that we got a bit narrow that lap, and we did end up getting a 37.4, almost dead, and the times are falling, and they keep falling throughout the rest of the session, to be honest. So my current best before this evening was a 37.390, and you can see I'm only about 100th off at this point. I'm really close, and as you can see there, just getting really tight once more, not quite touching it, as I think I may try next week, but as you can see there, just going around trying to be as smooth as possible, and we get a 37.41, which is the fastest lap of the session so far. But as I said, there is more to come, and we keep managing to just stay consistent. The times are falling by being smoother, and as I said, just rather than just trying to push the kart, I was trying to be smooth and make the kart make as little noise as possible, and it just helped me be consistent, because I wasn't, as I say that as I hit the wall there, but rather than like trying to get the most out of the kart and really push it as much as I can, has meant that we crossed the line from that lap with a 37.167, which is an extremely fast lap time. But it was helping me just to keep focused a bit more, as I usually try and throw the kart in. It usually makes me a bit angry when I make a mistake, and rather than that happening, the laps were just flowing and they all seemed to fuse together, and I was really consistent. You can see here, I didn't realise that I got 37.167 at the time, but that is an extremely fast time. Although the following lap that we are about to begin now is my fastest ever lap around the track, as that one was a 37.424, but you'll see on this lap just everything seemed to click. It went perfectly, I was really smooth, and it just resulted in an absolute blistering lap. And my goal coming down to the track soon is to manage to get a lap that is faster than this one. As you can see, really smooth, really maximising the track, really getting in to make the track as short a distance as possible, and it just leads to a fantastic lap for myself. So you hit both apexes, don't really slide the back out. As you can see, we cross the line with 37.096, so we almost managed to get into the 36-second club, but unfortunately that was the last lap of the session, and as I said, it is my fastest lap ever down the track, which I'm very pleased with. However, this is the end of the video, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. If you did, please could you leave a like and subscribe for more in the future. Any comments are also appreciated, as I'd like to hear from you guys. I hope that you all have a good week. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.